Welcome to Wrasslin Raw! All right, you're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when Raw became war and Attitude ruled. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Would you want to fight your son, Brian?
Yeah, as a matter of fact. Joe Giammatteo.
He was saying something about two jackasses.
I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history, one episode of Raw is War at a time. In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on November 10th, 1997. This Raw was recorded at the Corel Center in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and features Jim Ross and interns Jim Cornette in the first hour and Jerry the King Lawler in the second hour on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, then. Let's get into it. I was really curious going into this as to how they would handle the fallout from last night. I'm pretty sure it's next week that we're going to get the Brett Screwed Brett interview, but we have to keep in mind that this is slightly less than 24 hours since the pay-per-view last night. Things got a little fucky there, and it doesn't really seem like, seeing the screw job, it doesn't seem like anything's going to really be affected moving forward. Like I said, just curious to see how that was going to be handled. The show started with the Titantron playing the new video and song for D-Generation X. It took a minute for the Ottawa crowd to catch on, but there were plenty of boos once they did realize what was going on. Rick Rude came out to do his thing, kept getting booed when he tried to get it going, and when Rick says he's here to introduce the new WWF champion, a nice crowd chant of bullshit started. News travels fast, I guess, especially in Canada, where it's by bobsled. JR confirms that Bret Hart is indeed gone from the WWF now. He said that there's going to be more on that later, but they really didn't get into too much detail other than making, half-assed jokes about it. Shawn starts his promo referencing that someone else drew first blood, but Shawn is here to unload all over everyone. Shawn makes reference to his friends down in Atlanta. They're going to beat the hell out of Bret one of these days. And meanwhile, he relegates Bret to the category of dinosaur, like so many other dinosaurs down in WCW. Just when Shawn was making a weird reference to never wanting to beat up a 52-year-old man, Ken Shamrock came out to cut Shawn short. Kenny got on the mic and busted a rhyme, saying they're a disgrace to the human race. Wiki. Ken lost track of his thoughts, though, whenever he got to China. He ended up challenging Shawn to a match and went on to keep insulting DX. This kind of fizzled out for me when it turned into a pissing contest between who is going to allow who to talk. I didn't know if maybe that was because they were fighting for time while Sergeant Slaughter got his fat ass together. He did end up coming down to the ring. Slaughter said that Shawn has a match against Shamrock, but doesn't say when or where. He does say that Hunter has to wrestle Ken later tonight, and DX will be banned from ringside. Ken's music ends up playing, and no further details are given about Shawn and Ken having a match. I have to say, guys, I was honestly shocked at how low-key this was for a D-Generation X promo. I mean, Shawn tried with, the volume of his voice and the words he used to get things going, but the crowd was silent, just as much as they were jeering them. I guess I just expected there to be more energy to start things off, but I was also guessing that they were probably saving that Austin pop for the second hour. So, Ryan, what did you think about the way we started this episode tonight?
I really enjoyed that we started off with the new DX intro video because, we got a brief preview of it during Survivor Series, but this is the first time they came out to it. And yeah, it was just a nice nostalgia pop. I also really loved that they worked in the table topping of Michael Cole into the DX video. That was pretty fantastic. But once Rick Rude comes in and starts pulling his what I'd like to have is the crowd just is booing their heads off. Shawn Michaels starts to rip into Bret Hart. I didn't remember how brutal this was because I know from interviews, Bret Hart always said that he used Shawn Michaels' reaction the night after as his gauge as to if Michaels was involved or not. And I'm not sure I really got that from this promo out of Shawn. I mean, surely he dug into Bret Hart a little bit, calling him a dinosaur. But I mean, what else would you expect? He just beat him, and Bret Hart's not there to defend himself. I did laugh when he talked about beating up a 52-year-old man. No one really knows what that is then, but now we all know it's that famous uppercut to Vince McMahon in the locker room after Survivor Series. So I did get a chuckle out of that. Shamrock comes down and Michaels immediately starts laying into him for his lack of mic skills and then allows Shamrock to speak. And Shamrock didn't do bad at first. You know, I thought he kind of was making Shawn a liar until he got to China and he kind of fell on his face there. Slaughter came down and I was excited to find out that he was going to force a match between Triple H and Shamrock and that the rest of DX was going to be barred from ringside. So that's exciting, and I'm definitely sure.
And that will definitely
yeah.
be enforced heavily. I have mixed feelings on this segment because, you know, if you take yourself back to the Survivor Series 1997 and you just watched that, you're thinking like, holy shit, I can't wait for Raw tomorrow, you know?
Yeah.
And then you watch this and it's like, it's a little bit of a letdown, but I understand, you know, they probably have to kind of collect their thoughts a little bit, figure out what they're going to do. It is just 24 hours later. So yeah, that's probably what's happening. The good thing about this segment, I think, was that Shawn Michaels, he's basically an actual heel now, where before it was like, he was kind of a heel, but not really. But now people like really do hate him, especially these Canadian fans. So I thought that was the good part about this. But I do think it was a little bit of a missed opportunity as far as Fallout is concerned. If you watch Nitro this same night, they went all in on the Bret Hart stuff to start off their show. I mean, Bischoff is out there saying that Bret Hart has signed with the NWO. You know, they made a whole angle out of it. So a little bit of a missed opportunity here. But again, they probably had to kind of collect their thoughts and deal with the real fallout of, you know, they had some guys that left. You know, Owen and British Bulldog and Mick Foley, you know, they had a few guys that were pretty pissed off about this. So, you know, they just kind of had to collect their thoughts. And I agree with you, Ryan, on Ken Shamrock kind of falling flat once he got to China on that promo. It kind of came off a little bit Ultimate Warrior-esque, a little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit of like just a roid rage promo, which I don't know. It didn't seem too genuine, but I don't know. It was fine. Again, I like the part I like the most is Shawn Michaels is a real heel now.
I did like, too, when Ken was making fun of China for, you know, is she a man or is she
whatever
a man?
You
is
are.
she a woman, whatever you are. And then immediately DX did the group crotch chop
oh my
to
God,
her.
Yeah. Yes. And the other thing, too, is this sets up, this is the start of Steve Austin's run to the title. So it helps set that up now that Shawn is actually hated by the fans.
Yeah. Yeah, great point there. And also, really good call on bringing up, you know, Owen, Mick, Bulldog, the things that as viewers at home we're not really privy to, but that have to be on their minds because, like I said at the start, this ended up coming off to me just business as usual because, you know, Shawn had the belt. Well, that was always intended. Bret's not there. That was always intended. You know, they're more or less sticking to what they had planned despite the finish to the championship match last night. But it's those wild cards, like you say, that decided to issue a small protest they're kind of up in the air. And I didn't realize that, to be honest with you. I didn't realize that Mick left because of that. I know Owen and Bulldog
At least for
did,
24 hours, I think he left.
Yeah.
Well, after that, we broke to commercial and came back to our first match of the night. Ahmed Johnson defeats Mark Marrow with Sable by disqualification in 2 minutes and 27 seconds. I still can't get over how out of place Sable looks. Like, she's smiling and waving to the crowd as if her C-lister husband wasn't right next to her trying to look like a hard ass. Like, just the dichotomy, the difference in the look between the two of them coming down the ramp is just, ugh.
Punching balls left and right, Mark.
Yeah. And my God, Ahmed Johnson was overdressed as hell. He's got some kind of leg apparatus
like, why not
on
just
now.
wear pants?
Yeah.
Right.
Cover up that bionic leg that he has at this point.
It's like a hip to ankle kind of apparatus under 3 out of the 4 pairs of knee pads on his right leg. He's also, I don't know if you guys noticed, but he had some kind of hard boot around his left ankle. I think he might be injury prone.
He might be. And I think Matthew McConaughey might be controlling that leg with a remote control. That's a deep cut for anyone out there.
So, as much shit as I have talked on Marc Mero in the past, he didn't deserve to be in the ring with Ahmed here. Ahmed no selling, Ahmed bellowing like an obese water buffalo, Ahmed being slow as hell, dropping like a sack of potatoes. There was nothing that Ahmed was doing well here at all. And speaking of, just as I was finishing up that note, what a disgustingly lazy and dangerous looking botched scissor kick from Ahmed in this match. Like, it made me wince just watching it. Mero has developed a taste for punching people in the balls, so he does that to get Ahmed. It was pretty cathartic to watch, if I'm being honest. That's what gets the DQ victory for Ahmed. But rather than take the loss and leave, Mark tries to put Ahmed up in the TKO. And I don't know if Ahmed just didn't help, or if maybe Mark hasn't been putting enough weights on the bar during his squat sets, but Mark's TKO attempt turned into one of the sloppiest, fattest fucking botches I have ever seen in my life. I'm pretty sure I could give either one of you guys a TKO that would look a million times better than that did. Ahmed just fucking flopped out of it into the ring. JR attributed it to Ahmed being nearly unconscious from that nut shot that he got. Pro boxer Butterbean was in the audience wearing a Bill Cosby sweater.
Yes. Has anyone seen Bart Gunn?
That's where this ended. Man, Ahmed Johnson making me feel bad for Marc fucking Mero. That's where we're at. Ryan, what'd you think of this?
I loved that JR pointed out that last week Ahmed Johnson had a incident with Kane.
Yeah.
That incident was completely jobbing out and taking the honors of Jobber of the Week for his hard work. So I did love that JR pointed that out. But other than that, this was a pretty lackluster match. Thankfully, Mark did stick mostly to his boxing gimmick. But the crowd didn't give two shits. They were only interested in Sable and Sable alone. Mark tries his nut shot finisher again, but this time the ref is ready, disqualifies him, and then into his, what he claims is his finisher, the KO or whatever the fuck. But yeah, it was really bad on this bloated Ahmed Johnson. I don't know, maybe he just wasn't factoring in the extra 50 pounds Ahmed put on in the last couple weeks, but it was a very botched finish. There's no two ways about it.
He just fell over.
He just flopped him onto the mat.
Yeah, everything you guys have said really lines up with my notes perfectly, because the whole time I was watching this, I just thought it's very noticeable that Ahmed is carrying extra weight. Just watching him wrestle.
He's wrestling for two tonight.
Yeah. Just when you thought his wrestling skills could not get any worse, it's that pesky extra 50 pounds that he put on. And he deserved that low blow, and I loved it.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, after that, Sunny. Oh boy, Sunny came out to guest announce for the upcoming match. She did a fairly good job. The bags under her eyes were minimal. And we found out that Brian Christopher was going to be on commentary for this match, which was not good news as far as I was concerned. And Sunny introduced us to our next match. Taka Michinoku defeats Devon Storm by pinfall in 5 minutes in a WWF Light Heavyweight Championship quarterfinal match. And by God, Devon Storm is the jobber of the week. Take it, Ryan.
Thank you, Bartlett. Yes, Devon Storm is our jobber of the week. Devon Storm was born Christopher Ford on March 4th, 1974 in Rutherford, New Jersey. He made his wrestling debut in 1992 and trained under Mike Sharp. He has used the ring names Tempesta, Judas, Salem, Crowbar, Storm, and Devon Storm.
Was Crowbar WCW?
Yes, it was. I'll get into that in just a little bit. Yeah. After completing his training at Iron Mike Sharp's wrestling school, Storm began wrestling in the independent circuit and quickly formed a successful tag team known as The Extreme with another jobber of the week, Mike Moreldo, if you remember that name.
Oh, yeah.
After a few years in the indies, Storm jobbed in some 30 matches for ECW in 1996, losing every single one of them.
Nice.
He also lost a handful of matches for WCW in early 97 before joining WWF in late 97. This match tonight against Taka is his WWF debut. After this match, Storm will stick around for a little bit, jobbing for the WWF until 99, mostly showing up in dark matches for the company's B and C level shows, Shotgun Saturday Night and Superstars. In 1998, Devon briefly reunited with his former indie tag team partner, Mike Moreldo, and together they jobbed out to the newly formed tag team of Brian Christopher and Scott Taylor. Storm's final WWF match came on March 30th, 1999, losing to D'Lo Brown in just over 3 minutes at a taping of Shotgun Saturday Night. In September of 99, Devon joined WCW and started using the name Crowbar. His time at WCW would be without a doubt the peak of his wrestling career. Soon after he debuted, he was placed in a faction with David Flair and Daphne. The gimmick of the faction was that all 3 members were mentally insane. Daphne would loudly scream during her matches, and Crowbar would use dangerous, high-risk maneuvers on his opponents. Flair and Storm would win the tag team belts after winning a tag team tournament and holding on to the belts for a few months before they gave the titles up to Big Vito and Johnny the Bull at Super Brawl 2000. Storm and Daphne went on to have a fairly lengthy feud with Chris Candido and Tammy Lee Sitch. And after the faction broke up, Devon went on to singles action, capturing the WCW Hardcore Championship. This set him up for a feud with his childhood hero, Terry Funk. Storm would lose the belt to Funk at what would be the final Starrcade pay-per-view. In March of 2001, right before WWF would buy out WCW, Storm was released from the company. From there, Devon returned to the indie scene as well as putting his college degree to use as a physical therapist. His most notable wrestling appearance since WCW was on October 11th, 2021, where he lost to Joey Janela on an episode of AEW Dark in Philadelphia. That had to sting just a little bit, taking a big L to old Jelly. His most recent match as of recording this was just a few days ago on December 28th, 2023, defeating Brando Lee for the New York-based promotion Outlaw Wrestling. So Christopher Ford, aka Devon Storm's record to date is 246 wins, 351 losses, and 22 draws. So even with a push of victories later in his career, he could not escape the inevitable. Devon Storm is our jobber of the week.
Thank you, Ryan.
You know you're a true jobber when the peak of your career was WCW 2000 and 2001.
Yeah.
My goodness. Well, Ryan, that was very, very enjoyable, infinitely more entertaining than this match was.
What do you mean?
So thank you for that. Devon Storm jump-started things. Sonny didn't even get to finish, and I was glad that he did that, because the sooner it started, the sooner it was over. Devon Storm was less than mediocre from the start. Dangerous Devon Storm. Storm couldn't work his way out of a wet paper bag. His kicks were feather touches. Everything he did looked horrible. I mean, it looked like he had maxi pads stuffed into his shin guards.
And look at that schnoz.
There was some kind of convoluted interference from Brian Christopher. The entire finish badly telegraphed, and I'll just end this by saying that the match was fucking terrible. Joe, what'd you think of it?
Yeah, pretty bad, especially with Brian Christopher on commentary again. That's never a good thing. The crowd popped pretty hard when they showed Sonny sitting at ringside doing nothing, so that I guess that was entertaining. I appreciate the effort that they are putting in to make us try to care about Taka versus Brian Christopher, but I just really don't care about it that much. I don't necessarily hate it. I just don't really care. Sadly, the highlight for both myself and this live crowd for this match was Sonny.
Yeah.
Dangerous Devon Storm. He looked like your stereotypical white trash guy from the 90s when he hit the ring, and his moves were not very smooth. I mean, that's really the only way I could put it. He did not look all that great in the ring, and it's really no big surprise he never made it huge. That was clear from his work tonight. Very forgettable match, but yeah, I don't know what else they could do to try and fill out this light heavyweight bracket, but we're getting a little thin now.
Yeah. You know, when this match started, I thought that was maybe an earlier version of Jack Evans. You know, he was in AEW for a little bit. And, I thought maybe it was
Crowbar.
It was him under a different name. Crowbar. Yeah. Good band. Terrible fucking wrestling. All right, oh shit. Emergent situation in the men's bathroom.
Oh no.
Apparently Blackjack Wyndham is down. I repeat, Blackjack Wyndham is down.
Oh, I'll be sure to stay tuned in to the USA Network to see what happens next.
Michael Cole gave that to us in a monotone, as if anybody would be giving a shit anyway. We did get a peek inside the bathroom while Bradshaw was freaking out, though, showing Wyndham laying on the floor in front of a urinal. No word on if Dave Hebner was involved in that or not.
Undoubtedly.
At that point, at least. This was brief, so, just briefly, guys, and we'll do Joe first here. Does it matter to you that Blackjack Wyndham is down?
No, I barely even know who that is, to be honest.
Well, I don't care at all. The Blackjack Wyndham is down. Blackjack Wyndham is down. But what I do care is that Bradshaw shoves Michael Cole on his ass for the umpteenth time. Every time we see him, he's going ass over tin cups, and I love it.
Yeah.
And if you didn't see it, go back and rewatch it, because the moment that Cole realizes he's heading to the ground once again, his face, he just looks so defeated. Like he's just so over this shit at this point. I love it. I love it.
Must be getting good pay.
I'm going to have to start paying more attention to that, because that sounds like that could be an automatic highlight. If I can keep seeing that just dejected look of depression in his eyes, I might give that the automatic. All right. So, here's something even better. Our next match. The Headbangers defeat the Truth Commission with the Jackyl and the Interrogator at the outside by pinfall in 4 minutes and 48 seconds. I think it was pinfall. I don't know. This bullshit.
Whatever.
Thankfully, we missed the Truth Commission's inability to march in cadence. They came out like jobbers, as they deserve. But unfortunately, the Disciples of the Honey Dipper came out with the Headbangers, I guess to even the numbers, but all it did really was just make me disgusted. The Jackyl, he joined commentary. That was fucking terrible. So the Jackyl, he isn't even trying to do the Walmart Halloween G.I. Joe outfit now.
Not now.
So the whole deal makes even less sense than it did before now. Like, it wasn't good before, but it's even worse now. So when the stupid finish came, of course, the fucking Kurgan had to get involved, and then the DOA and the Jackyl and blah, blah, blah. The Jackyl stood out like a sore thumb as being exceptionally shitty in what could arguably be called an ocean of shit that was the ring here. I hated every second of this. I've never wanted to punch somebody in the face so badly in my life as I wanted to punch the fucking Jackyl. Ryan, I'm sure you must have loved this. Let's hear what you have on it.
Ooh, the moment I saw the Truth Commission marching to the ring, I already lost most interest. And then DOA coming down with the Headbangers, and I was fucking done. I was tapping. And then we get the Jackyl on commentary again. We heard this last time. It wasn't any better this time.
He fucking sucks.
I mean, normally with a match this bad, you'd be thankful that we're going to focus on commentary. But I mean, it was like pick your poison with this match. Do you want to listen to the Jackyl talk, or do you want to stab your eyes out and watch what's happening in the ring? I mean, to really highlight how terrible the Truth Commission is, both of the guys involved fuck up being knocked out of the ring by the double baseball slide by the headbangers. Neither one of them is able to properly just roll the fuck out of the ring. They both get caught up in the ropes and make it look bad. And then we end this with Crush and the Truth Commission in the ring at the same time. Things have gone completely off the fucking rails. I'm done.
If you did not change the channel to TNT when Michael Cole was getting beat up in a bathroom, you probably did when you saw the Truth Commission in the ring. Yep. If you did not, you see the headbangers come out and you're thinking, okay, maybe I'll stick around. But then you see the DOA follow them out to the ring, and the channel will be turned by everybody at that point.
Yep.
So it's amazing how much skippable content there still is in 1997. And like, we're all the way into November. So it's really surprising to me how much shitty content there still is in 1997. So that is wild. Like, what the fuck are we even trying to accomplish with this match? I don't have to like everything that I see, but I at least try to see what each match is trying to tell us. You know, for example, the previous match with Taka and Devon Storm was sort of, you know, keeping that Brian Christopher Taka thing going, so you at least know what that's about. But
it
this,
at least
we don't
sense.
know what this is. Yeah. But there was a highlight for me when Jim Ross, he was talking about the Jackyl, and he said, when he gets in the ring, business does not pick up.
So true, JR. So true.
So, okay, Joe, I wanted to ask you about this, as I think, Ryan, you can agree that between the three of us, Joe has probably the most wrestling knowledge between us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Jackyl. That is Don Callis, right? I mean, that he's
Don Phallus, as Jim Cornette would call him, yeah.
Somebody who is currently active in AEW, or, well, I take that back. I haven't watched AEW in a very long time, but last I heard, he was currently active.
He was Kenny Omega's manager, yeah.
That suggests that he stayed somehow relevant in the wrestling business from 97 up through 2023, or 2023. What has he been doing? Because, I mean, he doesn't do this forever for sure. Like, why he fucking sucks. How does he last this long in the business?
Well, just to use my jobber of the week from this week as an example, he also ended up only one match, but AEW as well. So he also stayed relevant all of these years, and you may ask how.
Yeah, but managing the AEW champion, though, I mean...
Well, still.
Yeah, he has been in and out. He was away for a while, I think. He was with TNA for like a couple of years, and then he left. I think he was out of wrestling for a while.
Okay.
And then he came back to TNA for a few years, and that's probably where he had the connection with Kenny Omega and those guys, the Bullet Club or whatever they call them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he's still in AEW or not, to be honest.
Well, I mean, back whenever he was out for a while, he should have just stayed out because he's terrible. This is terrible. Oh my God, the Jackyl is one of the worst things that I've seen in recent memory, and that's saying something.
Yeah. You prefer the Commandant, is what you're saying.
Oh, God, at least the Commandant's fun to make fun of. The Jackyl just pisses me off. All right. So, like you said, Joe, if you hadn't changed the channel before, certainly would have then, because the only thing that kept us holding on with that first hour of Raw was the final view of DX in the locker room strategizing as we closed things out. But if you would have stuck through that, we kicked off the second hour with the glass breaking. I was right. They were saving it up. Michael Cole was there in the ring to hold the microphone for Stone Cold. As Austin started to get the crowd riled up, my favorite exchange was when Michael Cole said that with the Intercontinental belt now, Austin must have a bullseye painted on him. Austin retorted with, well, why don't we just paint a bullseye on your ass and kick you around the building?
It's been happening for weeks.
Fantastic imagery. So believable. And that is when the Nation of Domination's music hit. But this was just Rocky Maivia coming out to cut a promo. The meat of the matter there is that Rocky wants his IC title back, and in his promo, Rocky officially calls himself The Rock, which I'm pretty sure is the first time we've heard that self-applied. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
Yeah.
Austin accepts this challenge. He also challenges The Rock to get a better haircut and to flush himself down the toilet. The Rock's facial expressions up on the Titantron. Perfect responses to what Austin was saying. Austin finished this up by saying that Rocky sucks, not because the crowd chants it, but because Stone Cold said so. And there we have it, guys. The Rock, by himself, no nation, has challenged Stone Cold Steve Austin to a match. And I think it's safe to say that this is the clear start of a rivalry that will give us some of the best material we have ever seen in our lives. Joe, this is just such another big milestone in our progress here. What did you think of it?
Yeah, milestone for sure. This is a special moment that if you're watching in real time, you have no idea what kind of ride you're going to go on with these two. I mean, they headlined, 3 WrestleManias after this? So yeah, I mean, the chemistry is definitely bursting through the screen. Just hearing, Rocky's not quite there yet, but these are two of the best guys ever on the mic and just controlling a crowd. Yeah, the facial expressions from Rocky were fantastic, and everything Austin was saying was fantastic too. So this was really fun to watch.
Yeah, a very huge moment. It wasn't a very long segment, but, this is going to set up what is going to draw most of the money for the WWF for the upcoming years. So kind of amazing to see, and also really awesome to have The Rock give himself that moniker here tonight. He's The Rock now. Moving forward, we could drop the stupid Rocky Maivia name. He is The Rock. So that's great. It was also great. I'm touching on it all night here, but the abuse of Michael Cole continues. Stone Cold, he just plows right through him and grabs the mic off him. Right in the middle of Michael Cole announcing his name. So I got another good chuckle out of that. But if we were watching this live, we obviously wouldn't realize what a iconic moment this was. But going back and having that 2020 vision, it's really cool to be able to go back and watch that.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. And Joe, you said that Rocky still kind of early on with his promo skills here, and you're absolutely right there. But just the amount of skill that he has for them to have the confidence in him going out by himself. Mm-hmm. There was no nation behind him for this.
With the hottest guy in the company right now.
Yeah. And not only kudos to Austin on that too, because I'm sure at any moment Austin probably could have just eviscerated him verbally. But I mean, Rocky hung with Austin out there, and I believed it. I felt it. It was good shit, pal.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so after that, we broke to commercial, came back to Los Boricuas in the ring.
Looking fucking ridiculous, by the way.
With Jerry Lawler announcing that fact on commentary with zero enthusiasm. I mean, there was no inflection in his tone whatsoever. Steve Blackman, though, was there at ringside to get a quick interview from JR. He was getting asked about his thoughts coming out of his Survivor Series match. And honestly, I thought Blackman did a really great job of sounding like a normal, intelligent human being here. He had well-thought-out answers. He was calm, cool, and collected on the mic. Really, for being somebody that this is, his third television appearance, pretty damn good. That is, until one of the Boricuas came up and interrupted with broken English and vague threats. Of course, that started a kerfuffle with the 3 Boricuas attacking Blackman, and it was at this point that I noticed Savio Vega was not part of this. He was not out there. It was only 3 of them. Fizzled out with Blackman standing alone in the ring while the officials kept Los Boricuas from getting their asses handed to them.
We just forget about it.
Yeah. That quickly transitioned to backstage where Michael Cole was getting some words with the Road Dogg and Billy Gunn. And just as I was questioning myself here, I have to ask you guys, we still have not gotten the name officially New Age Outlaws yet, right?
Correct. Yeah, they had their names up as Road Dogg and Badass Billy Gunn.
Okay. Yeah, I'm starting to get slightly confused with that because my research has already started calling them the New Age Outlaws, but we just, like I said, I don't think we've gotten that on screen yet, even with like a highlight from Shotgun Saturday Night or something, you know. But Road Dogg takes credit for Blackjack Wyndham being laid out in the men's room. There was no mention of how much Dave Hebner might have paid for the Road Dogg to leave a fly in the spider's web. But as they head out to the ring, that's pretty much where this ended. So, Ryan, I wasn't able to find out why Los Boricuas were there. Like, I thought that maybe this was going to be like Kane coming out and smearing 3 people at the same time. Like, I was really excited about that. But then I also wasn't able to figure out why Savio Vega wasn't there. Or where the fuck this bunkhouse brawl between the unnamed Outlaws and the Blackjacks even came from. Spoiler, that's coming up next. But, like, what did you think of all of this?
I mean, I don't have much explanation either. To me, it seemed like Los Boricuas was going to have a match of some sort. But then Steve Blackman kicked all 3 of their asses.
In a fight they instigated.
Right, in a fight they instigated. So we just forgot about their match, is what it seemed happened. A head scratcher, not sure.
Yeah, whoever organized this segment had to be fuming with this. Like, this just did not go well. It was a terrible attempt by the Boricuas to jump Steve Blackman, I guess. It just didn't go well.
That doesn't work on an Anvil native.
Yeah. And I just want to point out that I was really proud of that line about Dave Hebner having a fly in the spider's web. You know, Pulp Fiction.
Zed's dead.
I was very, very proud of that. Well, except I was imagining in my head the guy Herman from The Simpsons, you know?
Yeah, the 20 stories or 22 stories about Springfield or whatever episode, yeah.
There's a fly in the spider's web. Okay, so let's go on to our next match. The Road Dogg and Billy Gunn defeat Blackjack Bradshaw by pinfall in 1 minute and 41 seconds in a handicapped bunkhouse brawl.
Whatever the fuck that is.
Whatever the fuck.
It's been brewing for months.
Months.
This is the payoff.
Ever since the hats were destroyed.
Yeah.
And a bunkhouse brawl ties into a broken hat somehow.
They must have been very expensive Stetsons. While we were waiting for Bradshaw to come out, like, I was looking at all of the foreign objects that the Road Dogg and Billy Gunn had brought out with them. And that was kind of when I realized that, like, we never got an explanation as to what exactly a bunkhouse brawl is.
Never.
You know, forget about the fact that there was no lead up to this at all. But usually we get, like, JR doing, like, the mile a minute discussion of the rules going into it. So I wanted to ask you guys real quick, do either of you know the actual specifics of what a real bunkhouse brawl is supposed to be? Or is it just like a fancy way of saying no DQ?
I mean, I made it pretty clear. I have no fucking clue.
I mean, I have noted, like, it's basically a hardcore match, but hardcore match doesn't exist yet. So I don't know.
Well, I know WCW did a whole bunch of popular bunkhouse brawls, I think, but I guess I still just don't understand what the stipulations are that make it a bunkhouse brawl besides the no DQ. And a handicapped one at that. My God.
And I guess all weapons are legal is what it is. I don't know. That's a guess.
Well, regardless, Bradshaw took full advantage of his minute and 41 seconds to beat the ever-loving piss out of both Road Dogg and Billy Gunn. I was more impressed with Bradshaw in this match than I have been with the majority of Bradshaw's past work to date. Billy Gunn got lucky and reversed Bradshaw into a flying DDT onto a steel chair. That's where this match ended. But it did look like Bradshaw might pursue the matter into the locker room, or that we maybe would get some more of that later. We didn't. But, Joe, at about a minute and a half, I thought this was the best match of the night so far. What'd you think of this?
Quite frankly, I enjoyed this as well. I mean, it was basically a hardcore match. Wasn't terrible. It wasn't very long either. Now, that goes along with my final note that I have here, and it seemed very rushed. So that was the only problem I had with it, was the Road Dogg took a fucking dome shot with a chair, and then he got up immediately. because they had to go home. So
Yeah.
it was a little messy, but I was entertained by it for that minute and a half or whatever it was.
While you guys were talking, I briefly looked up what a bunkhouse brawl is. And this explains one of my questions I had, because I thought Bradshaw came out here and it looked like he was dropping the cowboy gimmick. But I'm going to now explain what a bunkhouse brawl is. It is a match which the stipulation says all weapons are legal. So we saw that. And you compete in your regular clothes. That's the main stipulation here that makes it a bunkhouse brawl, and I guess that's why Bradshaw was out here not dressed as a cowboy. But I completely agree with both of you. This is by far the best we've seen out of Bradshaw. He looked like a hard ass here. He was kicking ass and taking names. He looked really good. And then out of nowhere, they land a DDT on a chair on Bradshaw and get a quick victory over him after he beat the living piss out of them the whole rest of the match. So ended really weirdly, but best stuff we've seen out of Bradshaw since his debut.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's not hard to make a hardcore match look brutal, but that doesn't mean that we can't appreciate it. Because, I mean, Bradshaw, he's always looked stiff, and he's kind of known for being a bit of a stiff worker, but...
And an ass.
But this just, it looked rough as hell. Like, they're not supposed to wear their gimmicks. Okay, Bradshaw didn't. Well, then what the fuck were Road Dogg and Billy Gunn doing? They were wearing the same shit that they wear every other fucking week.
Well, that's what they wear out on the street.
Okay.
It's Kid Rock.
I guess. Yeah, I guess. All right. Let's continue JR's interview with Jeff Jarrett. How's about that? It continued with my previous evaluation in that this was not entertaining to me at all. I did like the word association that JR did with Jeff, naming various superstars of both WWF and WCW.
Flashbacks to Bam Bam and LT.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. I forgot about that. That's damn good call. Absolutely good call. Jeff did kind of feel like he was kind of like soft pedaling that. He could have gotten a little more aggressive with his answers, but he didn't. After that, Michael Cole was in the crowd to interview Butterbean, but Butterbean's responses to Cole's questions were drowned out by Mark Marrow's music as Marrow came out to interrupt. Marrow more or less shit-talked Butterbean's record, got overly defensive about Sable, and then left. So really hitting that kind of like two-dimensional thing that Marrow's more or less known for. Butterbean's response was fucking hilarious. I don't know what's going on. I was hanging out and I was answering the questions, and this guy just comes out and starts yelling at me. I don't know.
You know, of course, she's a pretty lady. I was looking at her, but...
What kind of place you guys running around here where somebody just come out and start yelling at me? I always thought it was Dan Severn whose ass I rode about having a high-pitched voice. Maybe it's Butterbean. Shit. Maybe I'm not remembering things correctly.
Another knock at the door.
Yeah. And I don't think Butterbean's knocking on too many doors these days. But anyway, that's where this ended. Ryan, what'd you think of Jeff Jarrett Part 2 and then this bizarre interaction between Marrow and Butterbean?
Jeff Jarrett's interview, you know, I really didn't think much of it. I mean, yeah, we had the word association thing here, which I guess kind of worked. You know, he said he respects Mick Foley and Macho Man's the hardest working wrestler he's ever known. I did laugh, though, when asked about China. He just kind of huffed and then... had no words, which is pretty interesting given, you know, what will happen in the future with him in China.
Yeah.
So I did get a little bit of a chuckle out of that. But Michael Cole with Butterbean and then Mark Marrow coming down and saying if you want to interview a real boxer, and they're interviewing a real professional boxer, not a guy who was an amateur at one point. And then became a terrible wrestler.
New York State Golden Gloves here, buddy. Hold on a second.
Yeah. So that was a little bit odd, but my favorite thing about this entire interaction, I absolutely loved Butterbean's Dr. Huxtable Bill Cosby sweater he had on here. That was fucking fantastic.
It looked very warm.
It did.
Yes, it did.
In that, where they were in Canada, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cold there.
It is cold. And it's November.
Yeah. So Jeff Jarrett interview, I hated it. I can't believe that they fucking put that on TV with him putting over WCW guys like that, like Hogan and Savage. Like Vince hates Randy Savage. I kind of wonder who the hell even let this air. And then they clearly had terrible editing with this because they're talking about Bret Hart.
Yeah.
Bret Hart just left the company and finger painted WCW all over Vince's TV. So it's weird that they let this air. I guess they had to kill some time. I don't know. But Michael Cole with Butterbean and then Mark Marrow coming out. Of course, he has to bring Sable into it. It's like it's so forced.
She's a pretty lady. I was looking at her.
Yeah, I'm going to come out here to tell you to quit looking at my wife, even though we weren't even here. I don't know. That was
he could have just told her to
angle.
Stay in the locker room.
Yeah. I did like JR saying, what is Marrow hallucinating? Mark Marrow is actually selling this insecurity angle pretty well.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know. It just seems so forced too. So it just doesn't work for me, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. It stretches credulity. Like I said, I mean, he could have just asked her to stay behind. If he's that worked up about all of this and the whole, living in her shadow or what the fuck ever, like he could just tell her to stay home. Like, I don't know. It seems like it's a simple solution to what is a needlessly overly complex problem, but whatever.
Or wear less revealing outfits to the ring.
Right.
Yeah.
And get less boob jobs.
Let's go to our next match. The Undertaker versus Kama ends in a no contest in 2 minutes and 19 seconds. Kama was out alone here. But that's okay because we've got BSK crew representing in the ring here tonight. And let's not forget that this will be The Undertaker's, correct me if I'm wrong, first in-ring match since Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
Right?
First time we've seen him since, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've had him in promos, but not in the ring. In action, I should say. And also the first time...
Did we have him in promos?
I thought... Yeah, I thought he cut one of those otherworldly in the dark promos about his brother.
Yeah, he cut one promo saying, I will never fight my flesh and blood. And that's it.
Also, Undertaker's first steps into the ring since Kane jobbed out Ahmed Johnson. So there's a good milestone to measure things by.
He's lucky he didn't slip on those stairs. Might have been some baby oil left there.
Also, the first time The Undertaker was in the ring since Kane won against Mankind last night at Survivor Series. And the match, this wasn't bad. It was serviceable, I'd say. Some might say that it was a bit boring, but I'd like to say that I could maybe see the easy comfort that these two had between each other. That is to say also that they were just killing time because, of course, what we were all waiting for... The lights go out. Kane and Paul Bearer come out, and Paul makes another request for a fight, while The Undertaker looked like he was about to burst into tears. My God, the emoting on The Undertaker's face during this. Taker did end up asking for Kane to come down to the ring as his brother, not as his enemy, and my God, I was getting misty-eyed myself. Just poetry. Sheer fucking poetry. The Undertaker then reiterates again that he will not fight his brother. Paul Bearer responded saying that Kane will go about continuing to fucking destroy people.
Like Ahmed Johnson.
Right. And all of those destroyed people are going to be the Undertaker's fault, which is more or less where this ends. I fucking love this storytelling. I love what they're doing here. Ryan, as our resident asshole for The Undertaker, what were your thoughts on this match and also the newest developments in this biblical saga?
Well, I thought, at the start, The Undertaker and Kama, this looked like two old friends just kind of getting in the ring and being familiar with each other.
Yeah.
Two big guys, and they work well together. They look good. Kama, size-wise, actually, measures up pretty good with The Undertaker. King points that out correctly, but it's a very short-lived match. We all knew that Kane and Paul Bearer were going to come out, and they did. I loved Paul Bearer calling Undertaker a zombie. That was great. The Undertaker then, he basically says, you're my little brother. under that mask, you're just my brother. He gets a little bit Hulk Hogan-like here with the amount of brothers he drops. And, gets maybe a little too much talkie out of the Undertaker. He's not sticking to the Reaper and Dark Soul talk. He's getting a little bit emotional here, but I didn't hate it at all. I thought it worked well. It continues this great story between Kane and the Undertaker. It just continues it along. We know we're probably not going to hit the climax of this feud for a little while, and just some good storytelling here.
Yeah, I think that like a lot of other things tonight, I have some good and bad from this. I think that the good is basically everything you guys said about the promo, the emotional promo that the Undertaker is cutting here. He's trying to talk Kane into joining forces with him, and once again reminding us that the problem he has is with Paul Bearer, really. Yeah. So I thought that was good storytelling there. The thing that I thought was bad was I thought this was a kind of a weak missed opportunity to just, like we said, we haven't seen The Undertaker, a live crowd hasn't seen him in several weeks, and we just trot him out here in a random match against Kama. I would think that we would have maybe come up with something more creative to have The Undertaker come back after some time off.
Yeah, that's a pretty good call. It does feel pretty random just having him out there against Kama, but again, we all knew what was going to happen and where it was going. So, hey man, whatever, I guess. I'm happy that they're keeping the storytelling going, keeping it fresh in our minds, and kind of milking the drama. You say, Joe, that you like the soap opera stuff. I don't necessarily disagree with you on that. It's just that I tend to like this kind of soap opera stuff more than like the Dustin and Terry kind of stuff. This is
that Jezebel.
Yeah, this is what tugs at my heartstrings. Just the Undertaker barely containing his emotions as he begs to his brother to join him. That Jezebel Paul Bearer.
I will not fight my brother.
Yeah, my God, it really just plays to the whole male mindset and the, testosterone and brotherhood and all that. It's good shit, pal. All right, let's see, where are we at? Oh yeah, we're on our last match of the night. Triple H with Shawn Michaels and Chyna versus Ken Shamrock ends in a no contest in 9 minutes and 54 seconds. I had to laugh at this. DX has brand new everything, but Triple H can't get a fucking new set of ring gear. Like, he's still wearing the blue blood robe and the belt and the tights.
Shit costs money, pal.
Yeah. It looks like he maybe has some new knee pads that has like graphics on it. But besides that, he's still in the blue blood getup here coming to the ring. And I have to be honest, I really did not think that this match was all that great up through to where Triple H was almost getting into a fight with Commissioner Slaughter at the outside. Rick Rude got kicked out by Slaughter at the start, like Slaughter said. He kicked out Rude, Shawn Michaels, Chyna, but then Rick Rude comes back. And I guess Slaughter didn't notice from 6 feet away. He was fucking sitting there on a fucking steel chair and couldn't bother himself to turn his head to the left about 3 degrees to notice that Rick Rude was there. And I mostly just sat watching this, and I hate saying that. I was not impressed with the action in the ring, and it pisses me off to say that. I love Triple H. I love Ken Shamrock. I expected much more to this match than what I got. But things started to wind down. We got an attempted interference from Rick Rude. That tied up Slaughter, while Triple H punched referee Mike Chioda just out of nowhere, dropping him. Shamrock applied the ankle lock. That drew Chyna out, but Slaughter restrained her. And finally, Shawn Michaels ran down. Rude tossed the briefcase to him. Some great timing there. And Shawn ended up decking Shamrock with the briefcase. Mike Chioda regained consciousness just in time to see Hunter pinning Shamrock. But then it looked like Hunter kicked him in the face to keep it at a 2 count. And that is more or less where we faded to black. There was no clear ending to this match. And it looked like they were actively trying to keep the match from ending while it was on air. So I was very confused by that, and just overall, disappointed in the match. It felt like it was a time killer to get to just the finish which again, like I thought that was neatly done. The way that they it was almost like what's that track and field where you hand off the baton, like the baton pass, they handed off the finish from Rude to China to Sean. And I thought that was just a really great way to do things. But like the finish, it wasn't enough to carry the lackluster action that preceded it. And it wasn't enough to make me ignore the really ambiguous ending that followed it. So like I was left just kind of scratching my head here. Joe, what did you think of the final match and the way that Raw ended tonight?
Yeah, it was horrible. It was timed poorly. It was predictable from the start, really. Sergeant Slaughter earlier in the show told us that DX will not be allowed at ringside. I mean, that's how predictable can you get?
Yeah.
And Ken Shamrock versus Triple H looks great on paper, but this did not deliver at all.
Yeah, I completely agree with both of you. I saw Ken Shamrock and Triple H, as I stated earlier in the night, I was pretty excited for, but the moment Rick Rude came out and Sergeant Slaughter did nothing, I kind of lost interest, especially then the rest of DX pours out and no one cares. I don't know. It was just disappointing. I feel like we could have got here with a lot more creativity and a lot more excitement had we not just resorted to completely ignoring the fact that DX was barred from ringside. So yeah, this was a missed opportunity for sure. They did their best to salvage it at the end. I would agree that looked okay, the timing and all, but all around a disappointment. Yeah.
Did either of you guys notice Triple H kicking Mike Chioda in the face during the pin count?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, what the fuck?
It just, nothing made sense here. Stupid match.
Yeah. Yep. As I said, we faded to black. So let's take it on over now to highlights and lowlights. Joe, why don't you take that first?
Well, for my low light, I was originally going to say just the general lack of fallout on this episode, but I'm going to give that a pass because, like I said earlier, they're kind of collecting themselves here. You think about the most talked about finish ever in the history of wrestling, you would think that the fallout would be good, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
But my real low light is going to the Jeff Jarrett interview because he is putting over the competition. He's putting over Bret Hart, saying he can't wait to face him. And it was pre-recorded. It was fucking pre-recorded. Like, they could have edited that.
They could have very easily pretended like that never happened. Yeah.
I can't get past it. I hated it so much.
I mean, here's a good example. Our episode that aired last week, the Survivor Series episode, was supposed to air a couple weeks ago, but Christmas and New Year's happened. So I edited out the talk about episodes coming after it because you have the power to edit.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, and you are not the WWF. You still have the means to do that. Yeah. So my highlight is it's going to be the first real interaction between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Rocky Maivia, now known as The Rock. So that was a highlight for me.
So my highlight is the running gag of Michael Cole getting completely abused.
I was hoping you would say that.
It's hilarious every time. It's even in the DX new entrance video. I love it. Low light, the Truth Commission versus the Headbangers. I mean, come on.
Ooh,
the Shit Commission and Crush in the ring at the same time. It's a no fucking brainer. Low light.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't even make a difference at all. Like, ugh. So my highlight, I had to go with Bradshaw beating the shit out of Road Dogg and Billy Gunn. As short as that match was, it looked great from bell to bell. It was the best actual match of the night. But I did have to give honorable mention to The Rock and Stone Cold verbally jousting with each other because that got me pretty hard too. Low light, really tough one. So many options to choose from, but I did end up going with the Headbangers versus the Truth Commission because I am really, really hating the Jackyl. Like, the rest of it sucks. And Ryan, like you said, DOA being out there, like, yeah, I absolutely agree. It made me hate existence. But the fucking Jackyl, he's got some serious go-home heat with me. I can't fucking stand that fucking guy. And it seems like he is just front and center with anything that has to do with the Truth Commission, which, again, sucks already. So, like, oh, God.
I'm going to say it right now. I wish that the Jackyl has a match with Ahmed Johnson.
Oh, God.
Just take that.
I'll take it.
Take that how you will. Take that how you will.
Yeah, that will be a highlight if that ever happens.
Maybe the Jackyl will try to get Ahmed up in the TKO.
Oh, God. He fell out of it. Like, so like it made me think of Stranglemania, when they're making fun of the headhunters and the by the way, where the fuck did the headhunters go? We saw them come on, months ago?
We're pretending it never happened.
What was that, Royal Rumble when they showed up?
I don't even fucking remember, but they showed up once and we never heard from them ever again. But like that moment in Stranglemania where the egg boy trips over his curly boot on the top rope, and just falls, just he just fat falls into the ring. That was Ahmed Johnson falling out of that TKO. It was so goddamn terrible. Oh man. All right, Joseph, you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around November 10th, 1997 for us?
Well, as you can imagine, the Wrestling Observer from this week is loaded with Montreal screwjob information. So this story has been told to death. I will not go into those details, but there is a lengthy write-up from Dave Meltzer, and he titled it Part 1.
Oh,
so,
wow.
There's probably more next week.
Like the Jeff Jarrett interviews.
Yes. This episode of Raw that we just covered, this is the episode where Brett suggested handing Vince the belt on Raw as one of the options. And
that's the one we went with, clearly.
Yeah. Yeah, Vince doesn't want any mention of the competition on his television show, especially during those Jeff Jarrett interviews.
I was going to say. Jesus.
But anyway, you may be thinking, what was supposed to happen after the sharpshooter that Shawn Michaels applied? What was supposed to happen after that? Well, Pat Patterson put together the finish, and Dave Meltzer has it detailed in here that Bret Hart was going to reverse the hold, and Earl Hebner would be down and not see Shawn Michaels tapping. Bret would then attempt to revive Earl Hebner, but Michaels would hit a sweet chin music on Bret. And at that moment, Mike Chioda was going to haul ass to the ring, but Owen Hart and British Bulldog would follow and break Mike Chioda's count. And then at some point, there was going to be a DQ finish. So that was the Pat Patterson finish that was booked that never happened.
That's what was relying on Bret handing the belt to Vince the next night on Raw.
Yes.
Okay.
Another item here that I don't think I ever heard about was before the show started, the British Bulldog and Vader both warned Bret Hart to watch his back. They told him to kick out at 1, don't kick out at 2, and do not allow any submission holds to be applied to you. Bret put all of that out of his mind because he had Earl Hebner in the ring, who he trusted.
He talked to Earl. I think they were on a flight together or something before the match. And Hebner was like, "No, Bret, I'd never be a wiener and do that to you."
Can you just imagine 3 straight hours sitting next to Bret Hart, just lying to his face, trying not to sweat? God.
Oh my God. Yeah. So I thought that was an interesting piece, especially Vader. So apparently Vader experienced some double crosses when he wrestled in Japan. So that's why he was giving Bret that advice that he did not take.
Good advice.
Yeah,
his trusted friend Earl Hebner was there. So
yeah, that was surprising. Whenever you said that Vader, like Bulldog, I get, but Vader, okay, I go Vader. I'm kind of up on Vader a little bit because of that.
Yeah, and those were really the only 2 two items that were news to me. So those are the only things I am going to share this week. But like I said, if you want to read all things related to Bret Hart and the Screwjob, then check out The Observer from around this time, and you'll get all kinds of information.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to say again for our listeners, we've had a few instances in the past where listeners have commented on, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about fill in the blank. And I'm sure that we're going to get plenty of that about the Screwjob, but it still stands. I mean, the most talked about thing there's nothing we can say further about it that hasn't already been said.
And I think we covered it. We obviously did the match. We talked about it. We talked about our feelings on if it was worked or not. I think we've said what we need to say about the Screwjob.
Yeah. When it comes to things like that, I think listeners maybe need to keep in mind that we're 25 years behind on this. So if there's stuff to be hashed out, it's been hashed out.
Speaking of listeners, Bartlett, do you have the shout out for our new 5-star Apple review?
From Paul NSJ. This was on December 28th. Great podcast. The podcast I've been looking for as I rewatch the Attitude Era Raw episodes. Keep up the great work, guys. Thank you very much, Paul NSJ.
Absolutely.
For that 5-star review.
Because if anyone out there wants to help us, there is no better way than giving us reviews on these platforms that helps the algorithms out. It helps us out.
Yeah, keep that Earl Hebner hate alive.
That's right. And if we get anything out of this podcast, I would really like it to be the ongoing rumor that Dave Hebner is a pervert.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
It needs to get out.
Yeah.
It does.
And his Dave cam. People need to learn about that disgusting Dave cam that he had in the bathroom.
25 years of silence is too goddamn much. But anyway, thank you again, Paul, and please do recommend us to everybody, because as far as I know, we're the only ones doing this. We're the only ones doing an episode-by-episode review of Monday Night Raw, including the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
So,
as far as I know as well, we are the only ones, so.
All these people that complain about modern wrestling, you just watch the old stuff and listen to our show.
Yep.
It's all you need, really.
That's it.
All right. And with that sage advice, that's it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW, just at gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and tell all of your friends to tune in to the most egregious Monday Night Raw review podcast on the airwaves. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on November 17th, 1997, with matches featuring Eric Shelley, Battalion, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.